Happy day, everyone. Welcome to Getting to Know You, an Owners Club exclusive podcast. Today, I am honored to feature Lawrence Kao. Did
That's
I say that
correct.
right? Oh,
Yeah.
good, good. Lawrence, welcome to the show.
Well, thank you so much for having me. Excited to be
Yeah,
here.
absolutely. I'd love to learn about who you are and what you're all about and what surrounds you on a personal level every day.
Y- Yeah. Well, so my name is Lawrence. I am a father of three little kids, 3-year-old, 6-year-old, and 8-year-old. So it's a busy household. Married, my wife for 12 years now. So it's been great. We definitely have our ups and downs, but this past season has been wonderful, and just so much we learned about each other and our marriage. Um, I am originally born in Taiwan, and I grew up in Hawaii, Maui, Hawaii, and then went to college in California, in LA area, and then I lived there for 22 years before I moved to Sacramento. That's where I live now. About 5 years ago during COVID, and probably can lead into why, because most people are like, why did you move? LA is a great place. So actually, my background was I started off my career was mostly in fix and flip. I actually did a lot of fix and flip, especially during 2009 to 2013. It's really, I call it the golden era of fix and flip. The market kind of tanked, and I was at Bakersfield. It's like another city outside of LA by 2 hours, and I started buying trustee sales. These are courthouse steps and buying properties there. And then eventually I was able to buy properties directly with banks. And that really increased the volume of my deals. And I think in that span of 4 years, I did about 200 plus of fix and flips. And so with a couple of partners, I was syndicating, raising money for fun to do the flips. And then from 2013 on, I wanted to, I got married, and then a couple other partners also. And so we decided to just return the money back to our investors because we wanted to pursue something different. Also, we thought maybe the market has peaked because everybody on Facebook was trying to learn how to do fix and flip. We're like, oh, this is getting dangerous. And so I wanted to dabble in the commercial real estate world, and I was really interested in the co-working model. And that was really the beginning where I think WeWork was a big player in the industry. In 2000, I think they started in 2012, and they have by 2013 they have 3 or 4 locations in New York. And so I partnered with one of my friends, and we're like, hey, maybe we can be the West Coast, the WeWork of West Coast, and let's do this. So we jumped right in and basically at the business all the way till 2020 when, during COVID, LA County pretty much shut us down. And the difficult part is so our members, we call them members, and they just couldn't get into the building, and so a lot of them chose not to pay us. And as a
Mm.
result of that, we built up a massive back rent. And then, at first, I think the government were saying, hey, maybe this will last for maybe 3 to 4 months, not a big deal. So during that time, I actually liquidated a lot of my personal assets trying to float the company. And so, by the way, my spaces, or they're like 40,000 square feet, 60,000 square feet, like really large locations. So the rents were really expensive. And so I was floating the company for a couple of months. And then I think by July, I realized, all right, this is not going to open up. I think it's going to get worse. And then by November, I made a decision because at that point, I think we have built up about $2.3 million in back rent.
Oh.
And then we were like, I was thinking, okay, this is going to continue on. We're gonna have 3 millions by like early spring the following year. I was doing the numbers, so like we would just never make any money, even if everything's goes well in the future. We'll literally work for nothing. So
Mm.
so I had that time had a very difficult conversation with the landlord and say, hey, I think we're gonna close shop here. It's not gonna work out. We still don't know when this is gonna open up, and so what are some options? And he was like, well, you owe me several $1 million in back rent. You have to pay that. And by the way, don't forget, Lawrence, in 2019 you signed another 10-year lease on these locations.
Oh.
So, and you personally guarantee it. So I said, yes, I'm well aware of that. I mean, I told him that, look, you could certainly file a lawsuit against me, and then I will inevitably have to file personal bankruptcy because the remaining lease is about $22 million for that since I
Mm.
signed. And so I said, I don't think it's wise to sue me because the only people that are going to win are the attorneys, and they're going to get the fees, and none of us going to get anything. So I proposed something else. I said, hey, what if I work for you for 6 months for free, and I train your staff and help you set up these locations so that you can lease them out to other companies. And then in return, let me out. And so that's basically what I proposed, and he took it because he also
Wow.
he actually owns a lot of buildings in Los Angeles and other part of the country. And there was an idea like, hey, maybe I can take your vacant office buildings and help you lease those up and convert a portion of those to like co-working spaces, and then maybe we can package them together and then sell it. um, Ultimately, it didn't work. Just our visions are not really aligned. I think at that time, I mean, rightfully so, he was very conservative. He didn't want to spend any money to upgrade any of the buildings. And for us in this co-working business, it really transform into a hospitality business where service and the experience are really important. And so without you can't sell the space when you walk in and the ceiling is leaking or there's a hole in the wall, so little things like that. um, but he just didn't want to spend any money because he was trying to preserve himself during COVID, right? He's also trying to survive. So but ultimately, yeah, I trained all his people. I was living in Sacramento. I would fly down to LA. I will work in his office, meet his people, leasing manager, and all that. Tell here's the SOP for running these properties. But yeah, man, walked away. I think it was June 2021. I mean, I officially closed down the entity November of 2020, but I still continue on till June, maybe July 2021. And so
And when you walked away in June or July of 2021, was that 2.3 million in back rent
eh,
wiped clean?
yeah, yeah. So it's one of those things that we shook hand and we say,
Wow.
and I actually, I when I realized we're not going to partner and then doing all these other stuff that we talked about, I actually proposed. I said, hey, it's actually a waste of effort on your end and my end. Like, since you don't want to upgrade these buildings and I cannot lease them out, I think it's time that we just, part ways so that I
Yeah.
can also get my life going, because right now I'm stuck in here and, I'm not adding any value to you. And so I think he was appreciated that I actually kind of suggested that before he suggested, hey, Lawrence, maybe we shouldn't do this anymore.
Yeah.
And so after that, we parted ways. And it was, this is the part where I would never like recommend anyone to do. But I mean, there's not like an official signing where like, hey, your 2.3 million back rent is wiped away, your existing lease. It was more like, all right, thank you for your service. I appreciate it. And that's it. I
And
said,
it just went
okay.
away. It just
It's
poof,
yeah.
into the ether.
There's I remember I shook his hand. I gave him a handshake, and I just look into his eyes like, hey, thank you. I know this wasn't easy, and I appreciate you giving me this opportunity to work for you for this time
Ah,
to make it
that's
right. And
amazing,
so,
Lawrence. Really, truly.
mm,
Like,
yeah,
yeah, what a blessing, right? And that's
yeah,
just something, bless and release. It's
100%. Yep,
hindsight, big time. Oh,
yeah.
I'm so incredibly impressed.
Oh
Wow.
man, it was Kathy. It was a tough time. It was one of the hardest times of my life where I learned. I did pretty well for myself during the golden era of fix and flip, and I invested a lot of my own money into this co-working business, and in the process, I lost it all.
Mm,
So it was a complete yeah, I was completely wiped out. And I had to move to Sacramento because my in-laws lived in Sacramento. And I sold my house in LA. I have nowhere to go. So I had to move in with my in-laws for about 2.5 years. And
yeah,
I've been living up by myself since I was 16. So it was a very humbling experience. And,
yeah,
and I'm so grateful for my in-laws. I love them. And so we have a great relationship, but it was challenging just like kind of go for my own with my family and then move under someone else's roof.
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I'm a fan of history
Yeah.
and the great people that I know in history oftentimes went to great heights and then low lows and then rebuilt again bigger and
Yeah.
better the next time. And I
Yeah.
just feel like you're on that upswing. Tell me
Oh, come
about
on.
Owners Club and how
Yeah.
you came.
Thank
I
you.
mean, you're an
Yeah.
Owners Club, right?
Yeah,
Like
I am.
that's
I am.
that's the top echelon, right, of Pace
Ye-
Morby's
ye-
communities and
Yeah.
what do they say for the oh gosh, I just totally blanked on our own motto. For the ambitious, only for the
For the
ambitious, right?
ambitious.
So
Yeah,
tell
that's
me,
good.
what are your ambitions? Where do you see
Yeah.
yourself going with Owners Club?
Well, let me share a little bit of backstory about,
Sure.
so I actually joined Sub 2 in 2020, November 2020. And it was a really interesting thing because I was researching, is it possible to purchase real estate without credit? Because I was thinking might have to file bankruptcy.
Uh-huh.
And I was like, how do I tell my wife that we're not able to buy a house ever again? Right. So I was
Ah,
thinking, and then when I was doing that research, and then pace was kind of on the rise during that time. It was the beginning. I was 2020 and about sub two, and I was like, wait, subject two, wait, there's a way to buy properties without using your own credit, and so that's kind of how I joined sub two, and then I didn't really get involved with sub two for many years, and partly because mentally I was not ready.
mm,
I had just gone through it was just a hard season. I was not ready to jump back in because I need to get my mind right, my heart right. And then it was also a hard time for my marriage. And so it basically everything kind of collapsed all at the same time, right? And so I had to reset this foundation before I can go again. And so I joined Owners Club because of the last Squat Summit. And I was very fortunate where I live now. I live in Folsom, California, just 20 minutes east of Sacramento. One of my
mm-hmm.
neighbors is actually an Owners Club member, Art, and so we were talking about real estate investment just randomly, and I realized he's like, oh yeah, I'm in this group. I'm Gator sub two. I was like, wait, you're in sub two? I'm in sub two, and so we started. I was like, wow, that's amazing. What a small world. And then he reached out to me. He said, hey, Lawrence, would you? I have an extra ticket to go to the Squat Summit. Would you want to go? I was like, well, I wasn't planning on it, but yeah, like sounds awesome. Let's do it. And that's how I ended up at Squat Summit. And man, what a gift. that art gave me. I was so grateful because I went there and I was listening. I remember sitting in the auditorium, and and Pace was going through why people should join Owners Club, and I was so convicted because I was like, I need to run with people like him and the group from Owners Club, because they just operate at this high level where I used to, like, I just thrive in that environment. I feed off people's energy from that environment. I feed off,
Yeah.
the challenges that people are facing from that caliber of people. And so I was so convicted that literally felt like I heard a voice say, go to the back and sign up right now. And I don't think Pace even finished. I went back to because I was like, yeah, sign me up. Let's go. I need to be part of this. And so that's how I joined. And my fault. I haven't, I wasn't like super connected with the sub two community. I'm because my wife and I also took a fast from like social media. So it was like after this whole thing, we're just like, hey, we also want to be really intentional with our time. We don't want to squirrel. Like we just like, hey, it's a wipe clean on everything, right? And so I will go on Facebook to maybe look at deals or look at things, but other than that, like wasn't super engaging with the community at large. But now, since I joined, it's just a brand new mindset where like, man, I'm excited to engage. I'm excited to add value, and I'm excited to provide value for people and use me as a resource. And so I feel like this gesture or this posture of joining Owners Club, it really propelled me something where it was like a slingshot. I felt like maybe the last season was a little bit like this, it's pulling back. But then by
Hmm.
making that decision to join, it kind of now accelerates,
Ah,
now I'm just really excited for this upcoming year, and what's to
yeah.
come and the people I've met so far.
What are you working on right now? What's in
Yeah.
that slingshot, right? Is it a rock?
Yeah.
Is it a watermelon? Like,
Yeah,
what is
yeah,
it?
yeah. No, hopefully it's a rocket. So obviously my background in the fix and flip, so it was kind of easy for me to get back into doing more fix and flip. So I do fix and flip up here in Sacramento, but also for the past couple years, I've really established myself as an ADU specialist. Kind of
Mm,
rode the wave in California. The laws and California has made it much easier to build ADUs, and so I started doing that. Also, help clients build ADUs, advise clients on whether a certain type of ADU makes sense. Sometimes it doesn't make sense. Just because you have land, it doesn't mean you need to build one. And sometimes if you need to build one, bigger is not always better. It depends on your needs and your goal. So I really enjoyed on using ADU as a tool, as an investment tool, right? Because now I can talk to clients, or actually, here's an example. There was a fix and flip, and originally we bought this property it was a 2 bedroom, 1 bath, and we're just gonna buy it and flip it. But then they had an incredible backyard, and it's a great little neighborhood. So I was like, wait a second, I think it's a mistake if we just flip this. I think we need to turn this 2 bedroom, 1 bath into a 2 bedroom, 2 bath and rent it out, and then build an ADU in the back. And when we start doing the numbers, it's like, wow, we actually almost achieved the 1% rule, kind of from the bird method in California,
hmm.
right? Which is really rare because generally you don't have the cash flow. You just have the appreciation. But now through ADU, it's possible to enjoy the best of both worlds.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's kind of what I'm working on. Fix and flip, ADU, looking at, how do I use ADU as a resource to be creative? Also pursuing a couple multi-family properties with some partners right now. And, ultimately I want to get back to the commercial real estate world. And, I watched my landlord who I work with in LA. He bought, so our flagship location was in Hollywood, and that building he bought it for $30 million. Okay, I think it was in 2010, maybe he bought it, or 2011, and I watched and refinanced that building maybe 7 years later at $105 million, right? And so
Whew.
he was able to pull money out and some, right? So, but a lot of it was me being a big tenant in that building and really, you know, I think created the vibe or just bring the right clientele because we had an event space downstairs. We had like recording studios. We had like mixing bay. We have clients that are from Apple's, Netflix,
Mm,
Amazon Studios. Some people, these agency would utilize our space, and so it's just like a hip spot to be. And so like that was just really interesting to see like, wow, okay, this is how he forced that appreciation, this building.
mm.
Without spending too much money, he actually asked me to spend most of the money to improve his property. So I was like, I need to be on that side. So
Yeah. So is that where
yeah.
you see yourself in future 5 years from now? Like, what is your Mount Everest? Have you cultivated yours yet?
Yeah, my Mount Everest for now, and I actually foresee it changing. But for now is to, I have a heart for the ADU world. And so it's to really unlock people's backyard, the value through ADU. And then in the process of that, helping, solve the housing shortage in California. And
Yeah.
so that's kind of my Mount Everest. Like I have a desire to start my own ADU company. But then as I did, but then I had to pivot partly because I was thinking wrong because I keep thinking, hey, this is an industry, which it is, but I want to look at it more as a tool to the overall investment strategy. It was just like when I was in the co-working world. And part of the reason why I think I didn't survive, I mean, other than COVID, was also, I keep saying the co-working world is its own industry, but in reality, it's most powerful when a landlord utilizes it as a tool.
Mm.
So I'm thinking from that, the same way that, hey, I think ADU is, I mean, it's fantastic and it is in its own industry, but I want to use it more like a tool rather than, hey, this is just all I do is ADU, right?
Yeah.
Because now,
Gotcha.
like an example will be like, hey, I have a client who's looking to build a care home facility, but it's really difficult to find a 6 bedroom, 4 bath house in California. And if you do find it, it's way out of price. So he's like,
Mm.
I have this challenge. I can't do it. I said, well, what if we buy something that's a 3 bedroom, 2 bath, and then build an attached ADU? That's another 3 bedroom, 2 bath. Now you have 6 bedroom, 4 bath, right? So
Yeah.
now we can utilize that tool to accomplish something. And so that's interesting to me, right? I want to look at
Hmm.
a project. It's like, well, hey, have you thought about ADU? Maybe not. This is how it can actually work, right? And so,
Yeah.
yeah,
That's really cool. I like that.
thank
So,
you.
what if someone wanted to work with you,
Yeah,
and they want to bring something of value to you? What would that be? What do you need in your business right now?
yeah, yeah. So I would say right now at the moment, probably more leads. I'm really enjoying working with wholesalers. I actually have more capital on the side than deals. So I love, any wholesalers listening. I'm buying, in Sacramento. So that's what I need right now. But yeah, I think that will be my number one thing. And then also working with good PML for specific projects. I'd love to meet more DSCR lenders as well. I've just met someone who's in the sub two community, and she was telling me, "Oh yeah, we can do DSCR loans on ADUs now." And I was like, "What? That changes the game for me." Wait, what?
Wow.
Yeah, and
That
I don't
opens
know.
the
Well,
door.
so I'll
There's the
share
key
something.
opening the door.
100%. So historically, stick built is really a powerful, like when you build an ADU that's stick built, basically it's ground up like building a home. You're getting a value possibly 90 cents to a dollar or 1-to-1 ratio. But if you build an ADU through like a prefab method or like it's considered like manufacturing, then you're getting a maybe 60% or 70% of value, right? So a lot of times my clients will ask me, well, should I do it through prefab or should I do a stick build? I said, well, what's your goal? It's like, well, I want to refinance maybe in 3 years, 5 years, or I want to sell it in 5 years. I'm like, okay, well, in that case, you go stick build because you're getting greater value and it's going to appreciate faster, right? But if you just care, you own a 20-acre land and you're doing this just purely for cash flow, you're never going to sell the property, then build it as cheaply as possible, right? And then you're getting that cash flow. Well, with DSCR, it really changes the game because DSCR really only looking at the income of the asset, doesn't really look at the value of the asset. So now I can go towards prefab. Now I can build it as cheaply as I can, and it will still bring me the same cash flow, right? And so that's why it really changes the game because, you know, for a 750 square foot ADU that's 2 bedroom, 2 bath, it might cost me $180,000 all in. But if I do it for prefab, I could maybe get it done in like 120 to 130, right? And so there's a lot of value by doing it more efficiently and faster, right? And so so that's why having a DSCR lenders that knows what's going on, especially in the ADU world, I mean, it really unlocks a lot of possibilities for me.
Awesome. Yeah, that's
Yeah,
fantastic. Um, all right. Well,
yeah.
someone wants to reach out to you, what's your favorite form of contact? How should they reach you?
Yeah, I would say through my email. It's Lawrence, LAWRENCE, at Domo Built. That's DOMOBUILT.com. And yeah, that will be the best way to reach me first.
Super. I think
Yeah,
we're gonna fill your inbox when this
let's
goes
do it.
live. Actually, we are live.
Okay, yeah. Perfect.
Yeah, but on the recording we have it all locked in. Thank you so much for your time today. That was
Of
such a
course.
great time walking that journey with you, and
Yeah,
you know, yeah, and my heart goes out to you for that hard time that you went through, and bless you and your family. You survived it.
yeah,
Your wife is there and by your side, and
yeah.
that's really beautiful.
Yeah, no,
So,
she's a superstar, and you know, there's kind of going back to what you said earlier about, I think there's a quote that I love. It's the depth of your struggle determines the height of your success. And often
oof,
I grab onto that, right? And say, hey, man, I've gone through some pretty bad stuff, but
yeah,
it's going to, right, take me
yeah,
to a higher height. So I'm excited for that.
absolutely. You're almost reborn through the
Yeah.
chaos, and you become stronger and more resilient for it. So,
Yeah.
yeah, my
Yeah.
hat's off to you, Lawrence.
Well, thank you, Kathie.
Yeah. Thank you for being
Yeah.
on the show.
Of course.
Yeah.
Well,
All right, everybody. You
okay.
heard it. Everybody reach out to Lawrence. Send him an email, DSCR lenders and wholesalers.
Yeah.
Let's get some deal flow going,
Let's
right?
do it. Yeah,
All
that's
right.
right. All right. Bye.
All right.